Hello, everyone. My name is Bruce McFarland. I'm a founding member of the Democratic Alliance for Action of Santa Clarita and have been president of the organization for several different terms. Today, I'm here to conduct a brief Zoom interview of one of our Democratic candidates. On behalf of the DAA, let me welcome Annie Cho, Democratic candidate for what has been known as the 38th Assembly District. Please say hello, Annie.
Hello, Democrats.
Great. All of our questions today are based on input from our members and are worded in a way that will hopefully motivate our candidate to reveal their true nature, purpose, and values. Please listen carefully and do your best to answer the question that is asked, and don't revert to stump speech rhetoric to avoid a direct answer. The first question is, what happened in your life that made you become a Democrat? When did that happen? 1 minute, please.
I have been a lifelong Democrat. I came to this country in 1971. I was 11 years old, and I was just fascinated by different levels of government. When we left South Korea, the country was under a dictatorship, and when I came to this country, it was very, very refreshing to see Mr. Walter Cronkite delivering the evening news. And for a while, we thought he was the president of the United States. He was delivering news and freedom of speech and whatnot. And I continue to pursue the way our governments work, and democracy, and the Democratic Party stands for representing all people and people without a voice and a face. And so I just naturally became I just naturally became a Democrat, and I have been all my life.
Okay, thank you. So sort of a follow-up to that question, you have a minute. What kind of a Democrat are you?
I am very progressive minded, but I am also business friendly. I was, after having been in the country for a few years, I volunteered to work on getting an ex-gang member off death row and out of prison. And that was in the 70s. And I got involved, and this was before the internet, before Google, extremely basic grassroots effort. I got involved because I wanted to make sure that everybody had representation, and that they had access to legal representation. And so in that sense, I am quite progressive. I believe in criminal justice reform long before such phrase was coined. But I'm also a small business owner, and I want to make sure that all small business owners get back on their feet and become an integral part of our rebounding economy.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Please tell us about any recent volunteer, philanthropic, or activist activities you've participated in, political or non-political, and if you had any leadership role. When were the activities? How much time did you devote? And what were your accomplishments? And you have 2 minutes.
Wow, I don't know that I can answer that question in 2 minutes, because there are so many activities and tasks that I've been a part of. Last year, I was involved in a rally and protest against DJOY. You know, our USPS delivery system was falling apart, and I wanted to do something to speak up. And so I participated in the rally, and I spoke. And just recently on Labor Day in September of this year, I participated in a food distribution drive. And you know, when I first came here, we are a family of 6, and there were times when you know, a loaf of bread may not be enough for one meal. And some of us may say, well, what's the problem? You just go and, you know, get another loaf of bread. It is a problem when you don't have the money to do it. And unfortunately, during the pandemic, we've seen more and more families having hunger and food insecurity issues. So I participated in the food distribution drive. We had about 200 people driving up. And you know what was really, really heart-wrenching is that a couple of people, they declined to take the box of food because all they wanted was perhaps toilet paper or perhaps infant diapers. And they declined, and they said, if you don't have that, that's okay. Give that box of food to someone else. And that was just, you see the humility in our humanity, and it just gave me hope. And that's what drives me to volunteer and to do everything I can to share and to make sure that I, in some way, pay back all the assistance and love that I received when we first came.
Okay, we're almost at the end of 2 minutes, so let's stop. We'll go to the next question. As kids, many of us admired the work of superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
And today it seems we need superheroes more than ever. You have 1 minute to tell us about your superpower.
About my superpower?
Yep.
That's another question that's going to require more than 1 minute for me to talk about. I'm the oldest of 4 children in my family, and when I first came, again at age 11, I overnight became the resident babysitter, the resident adult for my 3 younger brothers. And my parents, because they could only have minimum wage odd jobs, they were gone for a long periods of time. And so I learned to take care of my brothers and myself. And I learned very early on how to stretch a dollar. So once a week, we would always have fried rice. I would always make fried rice.
10
Why?
seconds.
Because it was everything that was left over in the refrigerator. And I would stretch it into a meal. And that's how we lived. And, the strength that I drew as a child, it still carries me through the day.
That's the end of
I'll
your
stop.
minute, but the next question may help you continue, because it is, aren't superpowers great? Please take another minute to regale us about a time in your life when you used your superpower to accomplish something good.
I think it would have to be when I worked on the Chersuli case, because I was very young. I was a teenager, and I had only been in the country for a few years. And we came from a country where it was a dictatorship, and therefore you were conditioned to not oppose the government. And in this case, we were organizing protests in front of the Superior Court, and we were organizing people to speak up and to seek justice. And that was a very foreign concept for me and for my family. But I felt the need to have representation and to have a voice. And the only way we can do that was to speak up and stand up. And so that's what I did.
10 seconds.
I overcame my fear, and I forged ahead to seek representation, which I continue to do today.
All right. Perfect. Thank you. Specifically, when did you decide to, and what happened to convince you to run for this office? 1 minute.
I studied political science in college, and again, I was fascinated by the 3 levels of government in the United States and how democracy works. And I decided to run for Assembly District 38 because last year it was an open race, and it's very rare for state offices to become open races. And so even though it was about a 100-day race and I didn't have much time, I wanted to jump in because we need representation in Sacramento. We need to have people who can be our voice and our face in Sacramento. And being in a purple district is so critical for us to make sure that we have our voice that is sensible, responsible, and seeking good governance. And that's why I decided to run. And I came in first among the 5 Democratic candidates on the ballot last year. And I'm determined to run again to finish the race.
Okay, thank you. District residency seems to come up in nearly every election cycle. We would like to know where you currently live, how long you've lived there, and where you lived before that, and what significance should residency have to a voter? 1 minute.
My husband and I currently live in Porter Ranch, where we have lived for 27 years. We have raised our 2 children here. We live, work, and play in our district. And prior to moving to Porter Ranch, my husband and I lived in North Hills by Sepulveda and Nordhoff. And the reason why we moved to Porter Ranch was to send our children to public schools. And we're very happy that our children were able to take advantage of public education. And also, it's very important for for candidates to live in the district, because we need to know there are so many different neighborhoods and flavors or communities within the district. And it's so important for us to know all the nuances of their desires and their needs. And I, having been here for, more than 27 years, feel very, very comfortable about every neighborhood, every community, from Canyon Country to Valencia to Saugus, Newhall, Granada Hills, Porter Ranch.
Thank you very much. If you're fortunate enough to prevail in the primary election, what are the top 3 or 4 action items in your plan for beating the popular Republican incumbent? You have 1 minute.
Wow, Bruce, you needed to give me more than 1 minute for this question.
I know.
It's about flipping our district.
I
Number one is making sure that pandemic recovery is full and complete and includes all our working families and mom and pop small business owners in the district. We have to make sure that people get back on their feet. That's number one.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you and let you start over. Okay. Because this is more of a campaign question. This is not a question about what you want to do if you're elected. So it's the action plan for beating the incumbent. So how do you plan to get elected?
Got it. Okay. Okay.
Go ahead.
Number one, I'm going to be flipping this district, because in my heart, this race is not over. I came in first among the Democratic candidates last year, and I am determined to not only mobilize the Democratic base, but also to cross over and win the independent voters, the NPP voters in our district, and make sure that they understand the nature of our district, and that our Republican incumbent, has not been representing us. Back in January, she failed to vote on holding Trump responsible for the January 6th insurrection. She abstained on that vote. In the middle of the pandemic, she was very busy trying to open up Magic Mountain, when on the nightly news, all of us were seeing our fellow Angelenos dying in our hospital corridors. And then most recently, of course,
10 seconds.
Most recently, she was on stage with Larry Elder. No. We cannot have a Trumpster.
So you have another minute to follow up and address the question: what makes you think you have what it takes to execute a winning strategy against that popular incumbent Republican?
Let us remember, the reason why she was elected was because last year, 5 Democrats split the votes, and there were only 2 Republicans. So even though we have more registered Democrats in our district, splitting it 5 ways, doesn't get us the outcome that we need and we deserve. Therefore, I want to make sure that I come out swinging, and that I clear the field as much as I can and continue to reach out to the voters. People, last year, I door knocked about 3,500 doors. I wore out 2 pairs of shoes and 3 pairs of pants, because I was walking 4 or 5 hours a day, every day. Because I knew, even though I raised the most amount of money among the Dem candidates last year, it would not be enough in a 100-day race. And so I just went walking. And when I talked to people found their own story in my lived experience. And this is how I was able to get as many votes as I did. So I will continue that strategy. And this time around, I actually have a professional team. They are the ones who helped Christy Smith flip this district in 2018. And so I have great professional help, and I have the winning strategy, and I have the determination to go get the votes.
Thank you for that. If you are elected in November, what specific issues important to the residents of Santa Clarita would you like to address and solve in your legislative sessions? And you will have 2 minutes for this final essay question.
Thank you. You're generous with the time on this question. Again, I hope that by the end of next year in January of 2024, we would have gotten out of the tunnel of the pandemic distress. However, I want to make absolutely sure that our working families and our mom and pop small business owners are an integral part of that recovery process. And that is just absolute important task number one. And number two, I want to continue to make sure that our homeowners have their homeowner protections, especially because we have the wildfire season is year round. And some homeowners are at the risk of losing their fire insurance. And I want to make sure that we have protections for homeowners. And I will continue to fight very, very hard for universal health care, because I think what we have learned in the pandemic is that if we were rivers apart before COVID-19, we are now oceans apart in terms of access to resources, in terms of actually having resources available to us. And I want to make sure, especially for those of us in marginalized communities, to be able to be a part, an integral part of our communities. And one of the ways to do that is to get everyone to remember, we are only as strong as our weakest link. We are only as strong as our weakest link. Therefore, we must help everyone get back on their feet. And that would be what I would fight for. And it's not just for the people in Santa Clarita, but it's for the whole district, but particularly in Santa Clarita.
Okay. That's very good. Thank you very much. I have 2 yes/no questions.
Okay.
Which means I would like either a yes or a no answer.
There's no room for maybe.
Not really. I mean, you can avoid answering it, but I don't think that will look too good. Do you commit here and now that neither you nor your campaign will disseminate any false information about any Democratic candidate?
Absolutely. I will not distribute or participate in any conversation about spreading false information or misinformation.
Okay, good. Will you commit here and now to end your campaign, withdraw your name from the ballot if possible, and actively support the California Democratic Party endorsed candidate in your district if it's not you?
I am unable to answer that because I am determined to finish this race and cross the finish line. And I believe that I am the only one who can do it.
Okay. I am sorry, but that's all the time we have for today. So thank you so much for participating in the interview. I hope you'll stop by the Democratic Alliance for Action frequently and keep us informed about your campaign.